Today we're speaking with Kellen Raff, who is a strategic logistics consultant focusing on e-commerce and global trade. So Kellen, my first question is, can you provide us with a brief background of yourself before we start the topic? Today's topic is about international e-commerce and logistics and some of the ways to handle distribution channels and other fulfillment challenges. So can you first provide a brief background of yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I got involved in global logistics, international logistics back in college. So a little over 25 years ago, I started at DHL Express and really just loved the global trade aspect. I was studying that in my undergrad in international relations and was just enamored with the global business. Right after college, moved with the company out to Asia and really got a taste of the what was happening in China with new manufacturing. This is in the late 90s. And then jumped into a trading business actually based in Hong Kong and did a lot of contract manufacturing for some of the big box brands here in the US. And then got wiped out actually by one of the port strikes back in 2003, was it? Had a bunch of inventory on the water coming in to LA for Christmas delivery, and all the West Coast went on strike and we went out of business. So I said, I'm going to get back into logistics and services, not have to deal with inventory so much. So since then, I've been more focused on supporting product-based businesses with the distribution of their product here in the US as well as internationally.
And can you talk about what's new in your world of global e-commerce?
Yeah, for sure. So the world is definitely getting flatter. That's, it's seen in volumes of product that are moving, brands that are being really picked up in China and in Europe and in other countries. And same thing with, European brands coming here and all over Asia as well. And so, the global, or I would say the online retail is no longer just domestic. It's much more international. South America, of course, having giant demand for US and European products as well. But still very much cowboy land. A lot of challenges in establishing a presence, from a marketing perspective, you've got to be there, from a customer service perspective, from language issues, from, the transactions with credit cards, returns obviously is like a nightmare. And so it's taken companies for many, many years, for most of history actually, to have a real strong, firm presence in that country, to find a local distributor who's going to take care of all of that administrative stuff, come up with some sort of distribution deal where they're going to be profit sharing, revenue sharing, and then establish a local inventory, which now becomes more inventory to manage in each of those regions. The other way to do it is sort of the wait and see or wait for an order, individual consumers, and then ship internationally. But, you can't sell a $40 or $50 order and expect your foreign customer to pay $25 or $35 in international shipping costs and then have them have problems when it clears customs on that side. We have problems here in the US just with shipping to Canada. It's like every company in America complains about that cross-border if it's over $25 or something like that. Whereas you have countries like Australia that have a de minimis in the 2,000 Australian dollars, which is almost 2,000 US dollars. So huge discrepancy between countries. But what we have seen is that the demand is there, and it is certainly well worth it to take that one region or that one country and start that as the first flag, get that in, start understanding the aspects that go along, and then there are now a whole lot more logistics providers and software providers that are resolving all those challenges that I mentioned, from inventory availability to credit card transactions, customer service, returns. All that can be resolved with a service. You don't need to go to that foreign country and establish a full-on, brick and mortar presence in that country in order to serve that country's prospective demand.
Can you talk a little bit more about how to overcome the challenges?
Yeah, I think one thing is to be clear of where the demand is coming from, and the 80-20 rule certainly applies in international. It can almost be 90-10, where you can look at those countries which are generally are going to be the first world countries, the more established countries that have more consistent customs, like Brazil and India and China have been long famous for, having rules that might be written but don't actually apply. And so you can get surprised with stuff getting caught in customs. And so start with the countries that are much easier, and then focus on those countries and take them, quarter by quarter, year by year. Don't try to go international all at once. Serving the whole world just becomes a nightmare. Much better to have the plan set, go ahead and execute to that plan, learn from the successes and the mistakes, and then your next phase is another group of countries, and just keep marching along that way. What's amazing in that way is that the first countries that you go to are going to have new sales at generally much better margins than if you're shipping from your origin country as a cross-border shipment to that foreign country. And then the next year, they're going to grow those sales as well, probably improve the margins again. And then you're adding in your second batch of countries, which now is growing sales. So a really strong way to take a brand that might be achieving here domestically or anywhere domestically a 10 or 15 or 20% growth rate, by adding in these new countries and new regions, you could see that jumping up by an additional 5 or 10% for that new business. And what's really interesting, and I've seen some fantastic successes from companies where they're based in one country and are doing fairly well, and then all of a sudden they start distributing to another country, and that becomes the game changer. Whether they be acquired by that foreign country's brand, another brand there, or whether they be, they come up with some distribution deals that are just fantastic, and now they're growing 200, 300, 400% after that. So from a small company perspective, or all the way to a large company perspective, it's certainly worth the work as long as you do it right.
Do you have any final recommendations regarding cross-border and global e-commerce?
Yeah, I would say it has a lot to do with partnerships. You do need to vet and test the partners that you're going to be working with and treat them like partners. They're not just vendors. You don't want to just give it to the lowest bidder. You really need to have relationships in place if you're going to expect for you to get through the bumps in the road. I've dealt with many cases where, all of a sudden the demand pops up in a country and everything's great. Look at all these orders. And now the fulfillment partner in that country starts failing. They can't keep up. Time differences between, the countries makes it really tough to have conversations. Obviously, international travel is tough to be able to get there in person. And so when things go bad, they go really, really bad, and they cost quite a lot of money. So better to, spend a little bit more in the beginning, lower your expectations on margin a little bit in the beginning, but take it slow. Don't put yourself in a position where it's going to wreck the company, obviously.